outer space and raining gold down. Confused me. I sold it. You just buy 400 something thousand Bitcoins with your company and you. So if I want to know what I got wrong about Bitcoin, or explain it so I understand it finally.
Yeah, I think, let's talk about it in sports metaphors. It's like, first of all, there's some games that you can't play, you got to watch. And if you're just watching the game and the team wins, that means your season tickets are going to get more expensive next year. But
yeah, okay, he might have a point there, but what does that have to do with the Bitcoin?
there are other games you can play. You go into a casino, you play the game, but you know the game's rigged against you. There are some games where the house wins, you're not winning. And Satoshi created a game that's rigged in favor of the individual.
Is he a real person?
He makes a statement like that without having any evidence.
Satoshi is a real person.
Look at his facial expression when he asked Michael Saylor if Satoshi was a real person. It's clear that it's not a real person. I mean, if you can read body language of people, facial expression, it's so easy. He knows something about Satoshi.
Gone but not forgotten.
Do you know who that person is?
We're all Satoshi. We're all Satoshi now, Dave.
Okay.
What does it mean that we're all Satoshi nowadays? Please elaborate.
Right? The most important thing to know is that, like Prometheus gave us fire to warm up, Satoshi gave us a game we can all win, right? And Bitcoin is that game. It's
Prometheus gave us fire. Another metaphor that doesn't make any sense. And what does that have to do with the Bitcoin? Satoshi gave us a game where everyone can win. Okay. First he said that Satoshi gave us perfect money. And now he gave us a perfect game that anyone can win. So which one is which?
You know, there are certain things where, like, you don't want to be on a network where they can censor what you say and they can freeze your account. Bitcoin is a monetary network where it won't censor where you send your money, it won't freeze your account, and it's engineered in such a way that on the margin, you're winning the game over time. So think of it like, wouldn't it be great if you were...
Sure that they can censor you, sure that they can freeze your account. It's already happened many times that the whole wallet gets wiped out. Frauds, hackers, people who send money to the wrong address, people who lost their key. I mean,
had a basketball team, you had LeBron James, you had Michael Jordan, and you had the digital version of them, and they played forever, and you could get on the court and play with them. And they're scoring 100 points, and you're scoring 2 points, but you're all getting rich together, and you're all winning together. That's what Bitcoin is like. It's like everybody gets to play. Everywhere in the world I go, there's like a fan club. There's hundreds of millions of people that are on Team Bitcoin. You should join Team Bitcoin. The 100 million fans would be rooting for you, and the great thing about it is you don't just win the game, you get wealthy while you win the game.
So that
Bitcoin is not a game that everyone can win, because a lot of people lost a lot of money with Bitcoin when it went up to 60 grand and then down to 20 grand. There is no evidence that this is a game where everyone can win. This is a typical pyramid scheme that the people who got in early, now they are advocates for the Bitcoin. But the people who bought Bitcoin at 97, 98, 99, 101, 102, they already lost. They might have to sell at a loss. It's not a game that everyone can win. You cannot win a game. It's only based on technicals. That's what Bitcoin is. People who trade Bitcoin, they can only trade it on technicals because there are no fundamentals.
that description is something, and we talked about it a little bit outside. I've always said, I've heard Bitcoin fans also say they buy it because they think it's good for humanity. And it's not even about making money necessarily, it's about good for society. I've been very clear. I'm on the make money side of things. And by the way, I believe, eventually I got to a point, I thought Bitcoin got too big to fail, too many people with money involved in it, and that's why it's interesting to me. So when you're this heavy, and I think you said you just about outside of BlackRock own the most Bitcoin in the world.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know if you can put a percentage on, as a good investment financially versus trying to save mankind, if that makes any sense? How do you break it? Did you do it? This is what I think the best way to put my money is, or like I said, it's a moral decision.
I think it's both. I think we got to play the game of life, and half the game of life is economics, and so you have to play the economic game whether you like it or not. So you can put your money in a Lebanese bank and use Lebanese currency. The government inflates the currency, the bank freezes your assets, and you fail at the game of life. You can put your money in any asset in Africa, or you can put your money into Bitcoin. So the real appeal of Bitcoin is everybody in the world, I mean, they don't want to put their money in a bank in the middle of Africa in an African currency you've never heard of, right? But Bitcoin gives you control of your money, right? And is that egalitarian? Yeah. Is that humanitarian? Sure it is. Is it economically smart? Yeah, right? So they're connected, right? You have to have economic empowerment if you're going to achieve whatever you want in life. And to be economically empowered, you have to be on a network that won't freeze you or censor you. And you got to have an asset that nobody else can debase. No corporation can screw up. No country can screw up. You know, and that's what Bitcoin represents.
So when we're out talking, and
what do you mean an asset that no country can screw up? Because they can ban the Bitcoin. Every government can do whatever they want with the Bitcoin. I think they already banned it in China, I believe, and in India. That combined, they're possibly nearly 3 billion people.
Michael was red pilling me before we got on the air, which is always a problem you have when you meet somebody, and we were just talking for 25 minutes, and you gave an analogy that I never really heard or thought of, which I think is worth re-saying, and you were talking about cyber New York, essentially, or cyber buying property as though, you know, if you could buy property in New York in the 1600s and then you sell it. And what I thought was interesting is not everyone can buy cyber New York, you get the United States, but you were talking in terms of Bitcoin. If you want to re-explain that analogy, I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certain places where the land values go through the roof. Like the land we're standing on right now in Miami, it used to go for $10,000 an acre, and now it goes for $10 million, $20 million an acre.
Yeah, and what does that have to do with the Bitcoin? Where is the link of your metaphor comparing an acre of real estate with the Bitcoin? Where is it? Because he's always saying that the Bitcoin is different from real estate. It doesn't have the entropy. What does this metaphor, how does it come along?
It's up by a factor of 1,000 in less than 100 years. Same in the Hamptons, same in Manhattan. I grew up in Fairborn, Ohio. The land in Fairborn, Ohio did not go up by a factor of 1,000. The land in the middle of the swamps or the land in the Rocky Mountains doesn't go up. So if I gave you the chance to buy up all of Palm Beach or the Hamptons or Manhattan, any time in the past 100.
So basically, he's comparing Bitcoin like the real estate in Palm Beach or in Manhattan. But he's making this metaphor based upon what?
Years, it would have been a good deal. In fact, in 1650, you could have bought Manhattan. 1700, you could buy land in Manhattan every decade for the past 300 years at a price higher than the person that sold it.
Yeah, but because there was a huge demand of people, there were opportunities, the economy was good, there are fundamentals to justify that. The Bitcoin does not have any of that.
Sold it to you, bought it for it, and it still be a good investment. The only thing that slightly slows you down is the property tax, but assume there's no property tax, you would buy it and hold it forever. Now, if you're an African or South American or Russian or Chinese, you can't buy land in the United States easily. You don't want to own the land in Africa any more than you want to own the land, in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. It's not going to appreciate. So Bitcoin represents cyber Manhattan. It's 20.
And says who? Like if he was unbiased and they didn't have an agenda, saying that Bitcoin represent cyber Manhattan. Where is the evidence of that? He makes it up.
21 million blocks. Everybody with money in the world is going to want to put some of their money there, right? How much of their money? Well, if you lived in Lebanon or Iraq or Syria right now, the money you have in Bitcoin you still have, and the money you have in the local bank you don't have anymore.
Yeah, because someone who lives in Syria or Venezuela that don't have any money to put food on the table, yeah, they're gonna put their money in the Bitcoin. Yeah, they don't even have money. They don't even know where the next meal comes from, and they're gonna put money in their Bitcoin.
Right? If you need to leave a country or flee for your life, and that happens a lot, the money you have in Bitcoin you get to keep. The money you have in land or buildings or local currencies or a local bank, you lose. So Bitcoin really represents that strongest, greatest city in cyberspace, and it's going to be the center of the digital economy. Like, the really nice thing about it is when you're buying a block or 10 blocks of Manhattan in the year like 1900, you don't know what people are going to do with it, but you kind of figure that all the smart people will move to New York and they'll want that land to build a building on it. You're going to get wealthy because you're holding it. The same is true with Bitcoin. If you're living in Africa or China or Russia or Argentina and you buy Bitcoin, you don't really know what you're going to do with it, but guess what? MicroStrategy just bought $2 billion of it this week. I know what I'm going to do with it, and I bought it at 100,000. So if you bought Bitcoin at 5,000,
So you're the Michael Jordan. You're the Michael Jordan of the analogy, in which if you're buying Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, you're just buying forever. You're never going to stop buying.
Yeah, I'm going to keep buying. I joke. It's like you said, well, is 100,000 too much? And I said, look, Dave, I'll be buying it at $1 million a coin, and I'll probably be buying it at the rate of $1 billion a day.
Yeah, but even if he buys all of the Bitcoin, there are only 21 million. I believe, I don't know how many Bitcoin Satoshi has got. I think 5% of all of the Bitcoin is already taken by Satoshi. You might want to look that up. But let's even say that he buys all of the Bitcoin, BlackRock buys, and then there are going to be 10 countries that are going to put the Bitcoin like a reserve. Let's even say that there are going to be 10, 20 companies of the S&P 500 to put their money in the Bitcoin. Okay, all 21 million Bitcoin are done. What are they going to do with it? What are they going to do with it? They're going to sell it into each other. What are they going to do with it?
$1 million a coin, because that's what I do. Just like you're like, crap, Manhattan real estate's really expensive in 1930. It's a lot more expensive than 1830. I'm like, well, 100 years later, we'll still be buying it and we'll be paying a lot more. The only issue is, can you hold it for that time period? Because people are going to want to buy it.
During the course of...
Yeah, but this does not have any evidence. Again, Manhattan real estate, only people who don't know can buy into what he's saying, because real estate goes into cycles. Okay, and there was a time where the rents in Manhattan came down. There was a time where commercial real estate in Manhattan came down, and people working from home. Now, if you were invested in Manhattan retail space or commercial real estate, or rather office space, you wouldn't be talking like that. I mean, if you know, you know. He can only make sense to people who don't know.
This, since you really got involved in 2020 COVID, we talked about it a little bit early. You're a smart guy, MIT guy, have you had any doubts at any point? Like, oh, I picked the wrong horse, or you just steadfast? Or were you willing to be like, you know what, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I go bust?
You know, in March of 2020, we all get punched in the face. And for 6 months, you're like, well, do I move to Miami? Do I get in the stock market? Do I buy Bitcoin? What do I do? So for about 6 months, I spent trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And we discovered Bitcoin. I thought, well, you know, it's not without risk, but everything else is worse. Everything else is a fast death or a slow death. So I'm going to do something new. Over the next 4 years, the risk got taken off. You know, the administration embraced it as a commodity, and that was one risk factor taken off. And then we got the ETFs. That was the second risk factor. And then you got the Trump administration embracing it in the red sweep. That's the third risk factor. And then MicroStrategy, we bought 250 million. We bought 250 million at like 11,800 coin, and then it crashed 20%, Dave.
Yeah.
And we lost $40 million in the next week and a half. Like, and that was.
What are you doing when that happens? Are you like?
I'm figuring out how to buy the next 250 million, because like I'm in, you're in. Once you're committed, you're in. You know, and I'm like I'm going to ride it to zero, or we're going to win. But I've decided I want to win, and I knew that if I didn't play the game, I was certainly going to lose. So, you know, that was the difficult time. But then Bitcoin rallied, went back to the all-time high, and from August of 2020 to about a month ago, we raised $10 billion because everybody got behind us, and we had a strategy, and we committed to it. And then there was the red sweep in big November, and we raised $15 billion in 4.5 weeks.
And you just take that and you buy more Bitcoin.
So now we put $25 billion into the network. But it's like, you know, decide what you're going to do with your life, focus, commit. And yeah, you're going to get punched. You're going to get beat in the face a little bit. You'll take a few, you know.
So, all right, let's here's the $1 million question. Let's put on, and you're my financial advisor hat.
Yeah.
Let's say my net worth, 100 million. What percentage should my net worth should I have? I own 14. It's a small portion of what I have. I've been beaten, lost, chasing. If you're my financial advisor, I say I don't need this money for 10 years.
Yeah, I would say you take your money and you divide it between scarce, desirable real estate you want to live in, that
Yep.
you like this place.
Yep.
And then I say you take some and you put it in like a big tech stock portfolio, maybe Magnificent 7 or things you like. And you take another portion, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 30%, somewhere in that range, and you buy digital property, you buy Bitcoin with it. So 2% probably, that's an insurance policy.
Yep.
Right, 2% is an insurance policy. You're not going to get rich buying flood insurance for your house. You know.
Yeah, but sure enough, he wants to put 2%, 5%, 10% of your portfolio into Bitcoin, because if everyone was to do that, it's enough that the price of the Bitcoin is gonna skyrocket. Imagine that everyone, there are 8 billion people, imagine if everyone was to put 2, 5, 10% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. Sure, what is he supposed to tell you? I mean,
10% you're a player, 20, 30% you probably make a lot of money. And if you're a maximalist, you go to 50% or 75%. But at that point, you're really focused upon that.
And then the last thing before I let you go.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask, in this world, and I asked it already, a lot of people are Bitcoin. I asked, are you only Bitcoin? Do other crypto? What are your thoughts on the crypto space? We know how you feel about Bitcoin, but all the other coins and everything going on, like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my view is Bitcoin is like a protocol, like it's an asset without an issuer. When I'm promoting Bitcoin, it's like I'm saying electricity, fire, English, math, and Bitcoin, Dave. Like, teach your kids those things. And then you say, what do I think about other investments? I'm like, well, that building might be good to buy. That Picasso might be at a good price. Maybe you should buy some NVIDIA. Maybe that's good price. Those are 100,000 investments. You have to be the expert. If you're an expert and you can play that game, then you should. I have nothing negative to say about it. But what I'm saying is, if you just want to take some amount of your money, hold it for 100 years, and not worry about it, you want the world's global dominant economic protocol to cap.
So basically, if you got money that you can hold for 100 years, he said, to put it into the Bitcoin. But if you don't even know if the Bitcoin is gonna be around 2 years from now, can crash. There is nothing to stop a huge crash. 100 years.
Capital protocol, and that's Bitcoin. So I say Bitcoin is like a savings decision. I just want to save my money without someone effing with it and taking it. Everything else is you're an investor and you're playing a game and you got to make your own decision.
So, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin company. You guys just sit around and watch a chart on Bitcoin go up. What is like a day in the life at MicroStrategy? Everyone walks in, they got the Bitcoin shirt.
So there's a lot of investors in the world that aren't allowed to buy Bitcoin. Like in the UK, they won't let you buy Bitcoin in your retirement account. So they need to buy a company, a security. So sometimes people buy our stock because they have to buy a company and they're not allowed. There's hundreds of trillions of dollars of money, some of it with professional money managers. They're not allowed to buy Bitcoin. They're allowed to buy Bitcoin companies. So some people buy our equity for that. Some people are bond investors. They want the upside. They don't want any downside. How do I get the upside of Bitcoin but downside protection? I need a bond sold by a company that's all Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin crashes 90% tomorrow, the bonds pay off.
Right.
But if you buy 100 million of Bitcoin and it crashes, you lose $90 million.
But it's not that the bond pays off. I think he's talking about the convertible note. Pretty much what he's saying is that if you put money in the convertible note, you're gonna get your money back, and then if it hits the strike price, that's gonna be converted into equity. But what is it gonna happen when the price of Bitcoin crashes? It goes down to 30, 20, 10,000 bucks each Bitcoin, and at that point the price of MicroStrategy is gonna plummet. It can plummet to 20, 15, 10 bucks. And what is he gonna do? Is he gonna issue more shares to whom and at what price? And he doesn't think that if MicroStrategy stock price is 20 bucks, he's gonna dilute all of those investors to come up with the money. He doesn't think that the stock price is gonna collapse again to where it might be like not even worth a couple of dollars.
So some people want downside protection and they want the upside. So what MicroStrategy does is we offer the bonds, we offer the equity. Also, our equity is twice as volatile and twice as performant as Bitcoin. There are a lot of like hot money gamblers, the options traders. They want 10x leverage.
Right.
They don't, or they want to sell the call option. If you actually hold a share of MicroStrategy and sell the call option 30 days out, it pays 200% interest, Dave. So there are a lot of traders, and they all have their own strategy.
But again, the only thing that I wanna say is that future performances are not related to past results, or rather, like it's been said, the past results are no guarantee of future performances, and this is the number one law of investing. Okay, the mere fact that it's been happening over the past 2 years, the Bitcoin has been going up and MicroStrategy price has been going up, it doesn't mean that it's gonna keep going at all. I mean, you might be stuck with your Bitcoin 4 or 5 years in order to see appreciation.
And they can't do that strategy without a publicly traded company in America on regulated exchanges, on the CME, on the NASDAQ, that has financial filings. So MicroStrategy is a bridge between the capital markets that are traditional, that have hundreds of trillions of dollars, and the crypto economy, which is global, offshore. And we're taking this scary, high-performance, volatile thing, and then we're giving it to people either as 2x or half x or 10x, and that's a fun business.
Last question: will Elon Musk ever get to outer space and mine gold from outer space and it rains plentiful on Earth, or is that just cockamamie.
He will get to outer space, but by the time he gets there, he won't mind gold because the gold won't be worth that much. There'll be a lot more valuable things to find in outer space than gold.
All right, there he is. I appreciate the first, I think, live guest we've ever had on this. And look, the chat's filled, but I'm going to make some decisions on the right. I keep saying the last question. You said 100 years. Is 10 years long enough of a wait to buy it?
10 years, if you're going to hold your capital, hold your investment for 10 years, then Bitcoin's a great idea. I say the minimum is 4 years. Bitcoin's 100,000 right now, Dave. No one's ever lost money buying Bitcoin. Nope.
Sure that people lost money buying Bitcoin. Everyone knows that. And because if I had money, I put it in the Bitcoin for minimum 4 years. For what? Don't even know if it's gonna be around 4 years from now.
No one's ever made money if they're short Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for 4 months or 4 weeks or 4 days, you have anxiety. If you got 4 years, you're okay. If you have 10 years, you're gonna look like a genius.
Okay.
So hey, my pitch to you is join Team Bitcoin, man.
As long as you're still playing.
Hundreds of millions of fans. Everybody in the world will love you. And then when Bitcoin goes up, you're all winning together. So join the team, Dave.
All right. I appreciate you coming by, neighbor. Michael Saylor, TDGG. We're just crammed in my little office, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. I'll walk you out. I'll be right back to recap that. Real estate in these prime areas. Everybody can buy Bitcoin. I like that. That resonated with me. That made sense. But the sports team just rooting for a team, that's kind of what I've said about Bitcoin. That has been like, Bitcoin, it's too big to fail. You've heard me say that. I believe in Bitcoin, not because I believe necessarily in like all the different what is the word for like high moral vision or like egalitarian or whatever. I don't believe in that. I believe people want to get rich, and that's kind of what he said. It's like it's a team that's getting too big to fail. Root for your team. You have guys like Michael Saylor, who's always going to be buying Bitcoin nonstop. Jordan, LeBron, they don't get old. All these people pouring money in, be on that team. Now, there's other stocks. He said it. He's like, yeah, the S&P, same thing to a degree. Like if you buy, stocks always go up. Rule number one, a day trader. So I never thought I'd have Michael Saylor sit in this little office, though. Like I got peaches like poop on the carpet. He's walking in. So he's saying about 20-30% is a good number. So for me, I don't know, 10, 12, 20 million in Bitcoin. Let it sit for 10 years.
Investing is about preserving and growing wealth. It's not about getting